All right, fellow cryptocurrency holders, XMAX Trading here. Pretty exciting news about GBTC, the Bitcoin trust fund out there that you can trade off as a stock. Bitcoin ETF is no longer an if, but a when, Grayscale Investment says. August 10th. Not all hope was lost with Bitcoin ETF believers, Grayscale Investment says. Securities and Exchange Commissioner Gary Gensler dampened the excitement around possible approval of a Bitcoin-based ETF last week, saying digital currencies need more regulation for any of the ETF universe. But for the firm behind the hugely popular GBTC, Gensler's comments come as affirmation. Grayscale's global head of ETFs, David Lavelle, told CMC's ETF Edge Monday, we read Gary Gensler's comments to be very positive because the story is no longer if there's going to be a Bitcoin ETF, but when there's going to be a Bitcoin ETF. Grayscale plans to convert GBTC into an ETF when the SEC warms up to the idea, but Lavelle recognized this will require regulatory oversight, just like with any other asset class that eventually evolved into ETF. When SEC gets comfortable enough with transparency, enough maturity in the underlying market, we're going to see an ETF. The recent approval of Bitcoin futures-based mutual fund from ProShares is a step in the right direction. ProShares head of investment strategy Simon Hemming said in the same interview. Bitcoin Strategy Pro Fund, BTC FX, is up nearly 40% since July launch and is primarily invested in front-month Bitcoin futures contracts tend to be highly correlated to Bitcoin's spot price. The advantage of this approach is clear. Future market is regulated, so you've got CME, Chicago Market, and CFTC commodity futures. You got a clear clearinghouse, then you're in a mutual fund that people understand well, and you get in and out every day at NAV, net asset value, calling the fund a really important access point for investors. If the SEC decides to approve futures-based Bitcoin ETF first, then ProShares will likely be in the sweet spot. But either way, the market for Bitcoin-based products is clearly in the early innings. There'll be a myriad ways of folks to get exposure over time, and with opportunities avail themselves, we'll be exploring them very carefully. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff, I think. Hopefully it'll come out. So, before the next Bitcoin run. Alright, later.